This is TWiT.
Facebook has been known to be super interested in analyzing its users' emotions in the past, and a newly leaked document takes that one step further. Joining us on a Monday this time to discuss something not related to gaming or movies or other things is Sam Miskovich from Ars Technica. How's it going, Sam?
Going well. Just going to enjoy my little Luigi coffee here.
Oh, I'm so jealous. That's a really nice coffee mug.
It didn't taste, it didn't sound like there was really anything in there. Was there anything
in there? Is there
there?
air in there?
There are some beans from Victrola Coffee in Seattle, Washington. I cannot emphasize enough that you should go there. But we're talking about something very different than that. We're talking about Facebook. What did Facebook do?
Yeah,
Hold on. Let me take a sip of coffee while you tell me. Hold on. Let's get a spit take. Come on.
Well, let's see here. You wrote about the 23-page document that was published by The Australian that goes into detail about how teens' emotions are being analyzed by Facebook and marketed to advertisers.
What? Sorry,
very
I was
good.
really excited about this taking.
Are you
Yes.
really that
Happy we
surprised?
got
Is
there.
it that surprising?
No, it's not very surprising. But to sum up what was just said, for anyone who did not catch this story, The Australian, a newspaper in Australia, got its hands on a giant document, 23 pages, that was prepared by Facebook executives this year and shown to advertisers. And the meat of the document is that it says to advertisers that Facebook understands, quote unquote, moments when young people need a confidence boost. That's an interesting message to present to advertisers. And it also talks about how Facebook's algorithm system understands emotional states of teenagers. Now, we're talking specifically people in the teen years from 14 and up who feel worthless, insecure, defeated, anxious, silly, useless, stupid, overwhelmed, stressed, or worse, feel like a failure. And so the argument that came up afterward when Facebook reached back out to me was they said that this was not specifically targeted, that instead that research was handled in the wrong way. But the facts that we have so far are the quotes from this report, which we still haven't seen the report. This is just what we are told by The Australian as a result of what it found. And Facebook not disputing that it exists, not disputing the words that were on it. Facebook is right now simply saying they dispute the idea that this was targeted. And that gets into some nitty-gritty semantics, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, Bleak in our chat room actually points out something very interesting. Bleak, of course, lives in Australia, and he says, some context, it's illegal to market in some ways to kids here. These documents seem to suggest that they're doing that. Facebook is contesting that theory, though, right? Are they providing any evidence or information that proves that this is merely informational and not actively being marketed against?
They don't really have to prove anything because because the way that it's quoted, it's a very interesting here's some information, advertisers, just shoved over to the other side of the table. And they don't have any sample, as I said in my original report, there were no sample advertising campaigns. There was nothing where they took Sally and said, Sally's feeling blue, so we're going to send her this stuff. But it did go into other sort of specific details that really don't leave much to the imagination. For example, Facebook could help advertisers target moments in which young users are interested in looking good and body confidence stuff, or working out and losing weight. Like, Facebook used those terms to describe the kind of state that someone using Facebook might be in. It also talked about how Facebook teenagers use the service differently between the week and the weekend. So during the week, teens like to post about anticipatory emotions and building confidence, and weekend posts are more about reflective emotions and achievement broadcasting. That's some pretty granular stuff to not only officially put into words, but also be like, this is for you, advertisers, and just for you. It's confidential. They did not repost this document. They did not, when they contested some of the ways it was described, did not decide to go, hey, public, check out this document with all of these weird emotionally specific things about teenagers using Facebook. Mm-hmm. So the other thing about ages is that the rules in Australia protect people who are 14 and younger, but in the United States, they protect people who are 13 and younger. So the fact that this whole document was about 14 and up makes me wonder how much of this was American. Now, Facebook officially said to The Australian that this had nothing to do with any other group or other nation inside of Facebook's headquarters. So we're only connecting dots there. But that age number and the fact that lines up with United States more than Australia is curious to me.
Well, I think the idea of them specifically collecting this data based on words that we use, and like the emotions that we click, it is disturbing. But in some way, like, just this has been going on forever. Every acne medication, every promise to, we'll clear your skin and you'll look beautiful, like, that is all targeting all those emotions that you talked about. And yes, I mean, getting specific is probably more advantageous to them, but many of those adjectives are just general feelings that most teenagers have, and
I'm totally with you, but wouldn't it be creepy if your television showing those zit ads in the 90s kind of was able to clue in to the day of the week, or clue into some of the other social stuff about whether you fit in or not and how you use things? Maybe you're more confident, maybe you're more insecure in the way that you post, and it targets things specifically that way. That's what this seems to suggest in terms of having these sort of days of the week and range of emotions. Yes, you can have a generic ad that sort of targets these base things of, I want to be popular, I want to look cool, these sort of youth-targeted advertising things that we have seen for decades. And we also know that Facebook has these sort of profiles of its users in terms of, it's got ethnic profiles, ethnic affinity, that it can guess and then target things accordingly. There was a potential lawsuit about illegal discrimination in housing and financial ads. The idea that Facebook has this data and can use it in interesting ways. But I do think that the idea that Facebook's robots can auto-sort, auto-discover emotional feelings and then tell advertisers, we have a way to really get kids at their most vulnerable, is kind of disturbing, I think, to any parent who at this point might still be oblivious to how bad Facebook is. I don't think anyone who tunes into this show or podcast is shocked, but I do think there are so many people who still don't really have that learning curve down of just what Facebook knows about your kids.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about Australia, but I can tell Facebook a big piece of information that 14-year-olds aren't on Facebook, by and large. You can find them on your other property, Instagram, which I'm sure they already know.
And that's been mentioned, is that they talk about Instagram noticing trends and when food is posted, for example. That was one example. Like, this is when they express things with a mealtime. They're definitely glad to have Instagram's robots noticing things in these photos as well.
Yeah, Facebook posted, of course, on their newsroom site that their intention was never to help marketers understand or to target ads, but rather just to help marketers understand how people express themselves on Facebook. But I mean, that information, like, it's provided with a reason. Like, there's a reason, there's a purpose behind that. It certainly, at least to some degree, is to inform marketers how best to reach the users of Facebook, and in this case, it includes kids.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's just, this is all another reminder that we are the product. It's just yet another reminder that when you're not paying for it, boy, you sure are valuable to Facebook, and all of our data is valuable to Facebook. It's interesting, today being May 1st, which is International Workers' Day, I do wonder what would happen if everybody on Facebook figured out, now I'm not saying this is possible because this is high-minded, but what if we all figured out a way to not use Facebook for a week? Not in that sort of, that obnoxious Brooklyn hipsters like, I'm quitting Facebook, y'all. But I mean, like, if we all figured out a way to just go, hey guys, we're just going to text and do these other things for a week and just see what that would do, because this is just a reminder that Facebook uses us. Yeah. And okay, well, if that's not bringing value to us, if we all agree on that and can come up with terms as users, that would be, I just think that would be super interesting. And I say that out loud as sort of a pipe dream, and maybe somebody listening or watching can clench onto that and find a path towards us having a stake in this conversation about what Facebook does with us to us.
I agree that Facebook uses us. Apple uses us. They want us to keep buying these things. They want us to be addicted to them. World of Warcraft uses us. They know when, they test those games. They A/B test those games and figure out, which crusades, is that what they're called? When you go, help me out here, Sam. Whatever,
I'm just sitting here thinking about how Nintendo would never use me. No, they would never exploit my nostalgia and get me to buy
Nintendo exploits your nostalgia. Snapchat, I mean, I probably said this on the show before, but it's a small thing, but it really drives me crazy. Snapchat has their streaks, which is like every time you've chatted with someone more than a couple of days in a row, you have a streak, and teenagers love that. They want to keep their streak.
Losing the streak is hard. I've had that happen. It's just
teenagers and older teenagers.
Teenagers at heart.
Teenagers at heart. Yeah, I mean, because and Snapchat is exploiting people and especially teenagers, because that's part of your development. You want to figure out where you are, how important you are to people, who is your tribe, and they're using that to get more daily active users, which, means that people will invest more and they'll be worth more. And so they're all using us.
Well, it's true that they're all using all of these apps. Anything that's free is using us. I would argue that with Apple and some of these other hardware makers, they're kind of using us. They want us hooked into things like iCloud and some of these perpetual services. Amazon certainly uses us. I mean, that is the face of technology, that as our dependence on an internet in which we are not handing cash to other human beings, when financially treat the things we use and do that way, then this abstraction of the things we love being worth something turns into us giving ourselves over to this other economy of us being the product. And it's a fascinating thing. And I think it's interesting. It's nice to have these moments, in my opinion. Nice is a relative way of putting it. To have these moments where we stop and have to reflect, okay, we are the product.
Right.
What is that? Is it that product worth it for us? Maybe we don't go to Amazon and search for every single thing under our profile. Although it's funny, even in the real world, that stuff gets adopted. When you use your frequent buyer card at the grocery store, that's valuable to them too. So it's a whole crazy rabbit hole. But for now, I think this is just a really, really good reminder for any parent who has a kid using an app like this to understand at a certain age point, they don't need consent from parents to gather all the data and potentially use it and link that from on and on. It's just a great conversation starter for kids to say, all right, Facebook may be old and decrepit and a thing you don't care about, but believe you me, if you're not paying per month or per year for what you're using, boy, they're going to remember everything you do.
Well, I also think it's a good reminder for adults as well. Because they didn't make those little 5 special emojis on Facebook so that there was more than just a thumbs up. They did the angry, like, love. They did that so they could tell more about our feelings, more about our emotions, more about our intentions and what we might be compelled to purchase or subscribe to.
Oh, sure. And then their plan is augmented reality through your phone. They want you to hold your phone up everywhere you go and potentially leave notes and secrets and tips. The idea that then they have to map everything. There's a combination of GPS and local data, of photography, and we all do all these services are about selfies and us taking photos of ourselves and giving those to these cloud services. So that's nothing necessarily new, but I do believe this is a connecting the dots of the data we give and the emotions and purposes behind it. And yeah, it's just another day in Facebook world, I suppose, for a lot of people. And there are people who just don't care, either because they would never use Facebook or because they just don't think that their own data is that valuable. But I think the past 5 years of disclosures about major companies and governments and the way they use data, it's all about that metadata. It's all about you being part of that haystack that connects other things. What you do is more meaningful than what you think.
Yeah. And listening and ultimately, in light of this and other things, listening to the voice inside of you as a user to know whether something that a company like Facebook or Google or Apple or whatever, whether they're doing something that makes you feel good or makes you feel not good. And if it makes you feel not good, do something about it. And honestly, like I can tell you from the other side, I have a lot of extra time that I didn't have before I kind of stopped using Facebook back in December. It's been pretty nice. It's not that hard. People get locked in, and that's the hard part. What's that?
Dude, today's the day. Facebook users of the world unite. We're gonna not march in the streets.
The day after May Day is May 2nd. The Don't Use Facebook Day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Don't use things that make you feel bad day. That's what it should be.